Thank you for choosing to watch this video in which I'll be tying a variation of the soldier palmer. Start by mounting your hook in the vise. Here I'm using a fulling mill comp heavyweight in size 10. Catch on your thread. I'm using a red thread. This is Semperfli's classic waxed in 12 knot. Once you've caught it on, trim off the waist end, as the body on this fly is quite a bulky material. For a wet fly I'll tie in the tail at this point and bind it down over the length of the body. The tail on this fly is a double strand of Veniards Glo-brite yarn number 3 crimson. I doubled it to give it a little bit of bulk that will suit the fly better. Take your time tying this down to make sure it sits nicely on top of the hook. Check the positioning, and you want to tie it down to the end of the shank, the straight part of the hook. I'll get my rib ready to tie in, but first I want to trim away the waist end of the tail. Save having to do this once we've got the wire tied in. You'll notice I cut the waist ends at a bit of an angle. This will allow the end of the body to taper down towards the eye of the hook. Next we'll catch in the rib. Here we're using some UTC ultra wire. This is a Brassie size wire in hot yellow. Catch it in on the underside of the hook and bind it down up to the eye of the hook, and I'll catch it in over the full length of the body, keeping a nice even taper. Take your time to make sure the hook stays in position on the underside of the hook. This helps keep a nice smooth profile to the underbody. While it's not that important for this fly, it's good practice and it's good to be consistent in your tying. Next we'll catch in the body material, which is some of Fulling Mill's Streamer Straggle Micro in a UV fluorescent red. Catching this in at the top of the body keeps a smooth profile to the body and gives us a secure tie-in. We want to catch it down to where we tied in the tail, and make sure the rib's tied in, and then we'll take the thread back up to where we want the body to end. That's just about an eye's diameter behind the eye of the hook. Then we start forming the body, winding the streamer straggle in touching turns. It's worth taking the time to fold or hold back the fibres of the material. This will help avoid too many of the fibres being trapped. As I'm folding the fibres back, I'm not putting too much pressure, but I'm just lightly running my fingers back from the eye of the hook to just behind the next wrap. This gently positions all the fibres out of the way, or as much as I can effectively. Taking your time wrapping the body does help to give you the chance to ensure you get proper coverage of the hook as well, and you want to keep an eye on the profile, make sure it's as smooth as you can make it. You want to hold the streamer straggle under a reasonable amount of tension. It's hard to describe, but enough to keep it tight without moving the hook. That's the body form, so we'll catch in the streamer straggle with 2 turns on top and a locking turn, and then we'll trim away the waist end. This avoids building up too much bulk, and we can secure it in by winding over the waist ends as we tie in the hackle. The hackle I'm using for this fly is a Lakeland Farms Red Label hen, dyed cinnamon, and you'll see I've stripped one side. Once you've caught the hackle in with a few turns, fold the waist end back and bind it down, tidying up around the eye of the hook and the tie-off point for the body material at the same time. Once we're happy it's secure, break away the waist end of the hackle. We'll wind 2 turns of the hackle at the top of the body, and then we'll palmer in nice open turns down the body. The 2 turns at the head gives it a bit of support for the head hackle after, and a little bit of bulk, and the open turns will allow the body material to show through and get that nice flash and sparkle. Once you've wound the hackle, catch it in with a wire rib and rib back up in nice open turns as well, holding the wire at the same angle. you'll see that stripping one side of the body hackle means the palmering hackle is not too dense and you can still see the body showing through, and you get the nice UV and red flash coming through. Once we've wound the wire rib, catch it in with a couple of turns and then bend the wire towards the eye and tie it down securely. Break away the hackle tip and helicopter off the wire. Then we'll fold all the fibres and loose ends back from the eye of the hook and tidy up the tie-in point for the wire. This will create a nice place to tie in the head hackle. But before we tie in the head hackle, we want to trim the tail to length, as the head hackle is quite long and might get in the way. We want the tail to be about the length of the body. The head hackle on this fly is a body or breast feather from a golden pheasant. This is a red coloured feather. So isolate the tip of the feather and catch it in just in front of the body hackle. Use a few turns of thread to catch it in, then fold back the tip, bind it down a little and trim away the waste. Then make sure we've got those waste ends tied down securely. And then we'll catch the stalk of the feather with our hackle pliers and we'll fold the barbs back as we wind the hackle. It's quite a big feather, so a couple of turns should be plenty for this fly. You also don't want to get into tying down the heavy stalk too much. Catch it in with a couple of turns, then fold everything back and form a neat head tying over the waist end of the hackle as well. And then break away the waist end, holding your thread tight. This can be quite a tough feather to break away. Just make sure you're happy with how everything's sitting and finish off forming the head. Tidy it up if you need to. And then once you're happy, we can whip finish. The usual 3-turn whip finish. Trim away the thread. Give it a little brush with the toothbrush to make sure everything's sitting securely, and pull out some of the body material into the hackle if need be. Then we're ready to finish the fly. Here I'm using some of the Raid Zap's thin UV resin. You'll notice I've trimmed the brush applicator down. Allows me to be a bit more precise with the application of the resin. Just be careful you don't get too much going on. And make sure we coat the head of the fly evenly, trying to avoid getting any of the resin into the feathers. Once you're happy with the application of the resin, set the head with a UV lamp. This gives a nice shiny hard finish to the fly, and that's us finished. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you've enjoyed it, please drop it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to be kept up to date on any future videos.